Calith Prime was a harsh world. Twin suns beat down on jagged cliffs and cracked stone plains. Lightning arced across green clouds as strong winds howled over the high plateaus. Dragons lived here, proud and fierce, their scales glittering like metal in the sunlight. They trained from hatchlings, learning to control fire, flight, and strength. Success meant honor. Failure meant shame. Xyther crouched on a rocky ledge, his small wings trembling. He had tried again today, and again he had failed. Every test in the Dragon Academy had humiliated him. The fire control exercise had gone wrong. The flight circuit had nearly crushed him against the cliffside. Strategy tests ended with him lost in the labyrinth. Around him, older dragons snickered, their eyes full of contempt. They called him weak wing. They laughed at his attempts. Xyther wanted to disappear, to vanish where no dragon could see him. But he could not. He could not stop breathing. Could not stop trying. Something inside him refused to give up, even as shame and fear burned hotter than any fire. His heart pounded in his chest. He clenched his talons into the stone, trying to control his shaking. He had to keep going, but for what? What use was a dragon who could not even pass the first trial? Far above, a human ship glided silently through the storm clouds. Its shape was sleek, built for speed and observation. Inside, Dr. Adrian Voss watched Calith Prime with wide, intelligent eyes. Adrian was not like most humans. Most feared dragons, kept distance, or hunted them for profit. Adrian studied them. He had come to uncover lost knowledge of ancient dragon civilizations, to learn how dragons had once shaped their world. He had no weapons, no army, only his mind and his courage. Adrian's sensors picked up Xyther's repeated failures. Every stumble, every misfire, every crash echoed in his data logs. Most would see weakness. Adrian did not. He saw patterns. He saw hesitation. He saw something the dragons themselves had ignored, a mind that approached problems differently, not worse, only differently. Curiosity sparked in Adrian's chest. He made a decision. He would descend. He would find this small, failing dragon and see what he could learn. The ship landed with a soft tremor on a flat plateau near the academy. Dust and pebbles tumbled down the cliffs as the engines hummed. Xyther, who had been hiding among jagged rocks, saw the strange machine land. His instincts screamed to flee, to hide. He flattened himself against the stone and peered cautiously. The door opened and a human stepped out. Small, unarmed, calm. Unlike other humans who had terrified dragons, this one did not carry fire, did not shout. He looked curious. Xyther's tail flicked nervously. He wanted to roar, to scare the human away. But something about this one made him hesitate. The human moved slowly, deliberately, scanning the cliffs, scanning Xyther. His eyes were sharp but kind. His face held no mockery. His voice, when he spoke, was soft but confident. "Hello," he said. "I've been watching. You are not like the others." Xyther's heart skipped a beat. No dragon had ever said anything like that. The words confused him. Curiosity and fear warred inside him. "What do you mean?" he rasped, wings quivering. "You approach things differently," the human said. "I can see it. Most dragons just try harder. You try another way. I want to see it. Will you show me?" Xyther stared. Show him? He had never shown his failures to anyone, especially not a human. Humans were dangerous, clever, unpredictable. They could hurt him or worse, laugh like the others. And yet, there was something in the human's eyes that did not belong to fear or ridicule. It was respect. For the first time, Xyther felt a spark of hope. "What do you want from me?" Xyther whispered, voice trembling. "Just show me how you see the world," Adrian said. "Nothing more." Xyther's chest tightened. This was risky. Dragons had rules, humans were outsiders. Trusting one could bring punishment. But staying silent, staying afraid, had brought him nothing but pain. His claws dug into the stone. Something stirred in him, a small, stubborn flame of courage. I'll try," he said. Adrian smiled faintly. "Good. That is all I ask." The wind picked up, stronger now, throwing dust into Xyther's eyes. The cliffs around them were jagged, sharp, unwelcoming. Danger lurked in every gust. And yet, for the first time, Xyther felt he might survive it, not alone but with a human at his side. He leapt off the ledge, flapping clumsily, the wind tossing him. He had never flown like this with another being guiding him. His heart pounded with terror, with hope. The human's voice reached him over the wind. "Trust your mind, not just your wings. Watch, think, act." Xyther's wings trembled harder. Could he do it? Could he finally succeed at something? Below, the plateau stretched endlessly, storms flashing across the horizon. And somewhere in the wind, a new challenge waited. The wind tore at Zyther's wings, throwing him sideways. He had never flown under such chaos, never with another being's voice guiding him. Yet Adrian's words rang clear: trust your mind, not just your wings. Watch, think, act. Zyther clenched his jaw and focused. He had spent his life reacting, failing, crashing, but this was different. He had guidance, and he had a chance to see himself differently. Below, jagged obsidian pillars jutted from the plateau, black and slick in the storm. Lightning arced between them, striking without warning. Most dragons avoided this area entirely. The wind maze, it was called, named for the violent air currents that shifted unpredictably, testing even the strongest flyers. It had broken many before him. But Adrian had brought him here intentionally. He wanted to see Zyther's thought, not his power. Zyther hovered, talons gripping the edge of a rocky outcrop. His chest ached. His mind raced. He knew he could not rely on brute force or instinct, that had failed him too many times. He had to think. He had to analyze. He had to act. Look at the wind, Adrian said, voice calm over the communicator strapped to Zyther's scales. Feel the patterns. Notice the shadows of the lightning. Don't fight it. Move with it. Zyther's heart hammered. He had never tried to work with the wind before. Dragons fought the elements. He had been taught that fire could solve everything. But now he watched the gusts curl around the pillars. He noticed tiny eddies forming where the wind split. He saw how lightning danced along certain paths, leaving others untouched. His mind started to map the currents, to see a path that wasn't obvious. He pushed off the ledge. His wings flapped furiously, but instead of forcing himself against the storm, he angled into the currents. A lightning bolt flashed dangerously close, scorching the rock behind him. Zyther froze for a split second, then remembered Adrian's words: think, don't react blindly. He adjusted his angle, letting a swirling wind pocket lift him rather than fighting it. He twisted, dove rose, calculated, precise. A chorus of mocking dragons sounded from the cliffs above. Weak wing. You'll die. Their voices cut through the wind like knives. Zyther's tail lashed. He wanted to roar to show them strength, but fear still clutched at his heart. He breathed, steadying himself. It doesn't matter what they think, he told himself. It only matters that I finish. The maze narrowed. Pillars jutted closer, and lightning split around them in unpredictable bursts. Zyther's wings ached. Sweat and scales mixed as he pushed harder, every muscle trembling. A gust slammed him sideways, almost tossing him into a jagged rock. He caught himself just in time, talons scraping against stone. Panic threatened to take over. Breathe. Adrian's voice snapped in his ears. Focus on what you control. Anticipate the next move. Think, Zyther. Zyther blinked, forced his mind to clear. He scanned the environment, measured distances, predicted currents. Slowly he began to move not as a failing dragon but as a strategist. He used one wind pocket to rise, another to spin, letting the storm itself guide him. He was no longer just surviving, he was navigating. A sudden strike of lightning split a pillar directly in his path. For a moment time slowed. Zyther's heart stopped. Then he acted. He angled sharply, tucked his wings, and let the gusts carry him through a narrow gap. He emerged on the other side, wings trembling but intact. A cheer rose from somewhere inside him. He had done it. He had survived what many dragons could not. Adrian's voice was steady, approving. Good. You see the patterns. You learn. That is what matters. Zyther hovered, panting. Never before had anyone said something like that. Not his parents, not the elders, not even the instructors. Always mockery. Always shame. But now he felt something new: recognition. Respect. A sense that failure was not the end, only a lesson waiting to be understood. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the jagged canyon below. Zyther looked down at the maze he had just conquered. He could see the danger. He could see the paths most dragons would blindly charge into, and he realized how different he now felt. He was thinking ahead, predicting outcomes, staying calm where others panicked. He was learning from a human. Suddenly, a louder, sharper rumble shook the plateau. One of the obsidian pillars, cracked and struck by lightning, began to topple toward the narrow path Zyther had just cleared. He froze. He had no time to calculate. Fear surged, but so did something else, a sharp, human-like clarity. He angled his wings, using a small eddy to lift just enough, barely clearing the falling stone. Debris exploded below him. His chest pounded. He was alive. See, Adrian said. Your mind saved you, not just your wings. Zyther landed on a ledge across the maze, shaking but exhilarated. For the first time he felt a spark of pride and something deeper, possibility. Perhaps he was not doomed to fail. Perhaps he could succeed in ways no dragon had imagined. But the storm was not over. Far above, dark clouds swirled faster, and something glimmered at the edges of his vision. A shadow moved, large, intelligent, and watching. Zyther's talons dug into the stone. He had survived the maze, yes, but what else waited in the storm, unseen? He looked at Adrian wide-eyed. What is that? Adrian's voice was calm, but his words carried weight. Something you will have to face next. But I believe you can. Zyther swallowed hard. He was no longer just a failing dragon. He was being tested, and the next challenge would demand everything he had learned. The wind screamed around him. Lightning flashed. And in the shadows of the storm, a new danger waited, watching for his first mistake. The plateau grew silent after the storm. Zyther's wings still trembled from exertion, but a new determination burned in his chest. He had survived the maze. He had done what many dragons had failed to do. Yet Adrian's eyes, calm and focused as always, held no praise, only expectation. Good, Adrian said. Now the real test begins. Zyther glanced at him, unsure. The human's small frame seemed fragile against Calith Prime's harsh cliffs, yet there was a strength in his presence that made dragons pause. Adrian had taught him to think, not react, to see patterns where others saw chaos. But what could be more dangerous than the storm maze? Adrian led him toward the vault of Seraphis, hidden deep within a canyon rim that twisted into darkness. Legend spoke of it as a place left by dragons' ancestors, a repository of knowledge and power long lost. Most dragons avoided it, fearing its traps. Those who dared rarely returned. The path was narrow, with crumbling ledges and jagged walls. Shadows danced as the twin suns dipped, leaving the canyon in gloom. Zyther hesitated. Fear rose in his chest. He had failed so many times. Could he survive this? Could he even find the vault without crashing into the cliffs? Adrian placed a hand on his scaled shoulder, a human gesture, simple yet grounding. Trust yourself, he said. Trust what you've learned. The entrance loomed ahead, a yawning arch carved from black stone, etched with ancient symbols glowing faintly in the dim light. Zyther shivered. The air inside smelled old, charged, alive. Energy hummed beneath the stone floors, and the walls seemed to shift in subtle ways. Every instinct screamed danger. This place tests more than strength, Adrian said quietly. It tests mind and courage. Inside, corridors twisted and turned. Shadows moved where no light should reach. Zyther's claws clicked against the stone, each step measured. One wrong move could trigger a trap, collapse a passage, or awaken something ancient and deadly. But he remembered Adrian's lessons: observe, anticipate, act. The first obstacle appeared, a room filled with floating crystal shards, suspended by energy he could barely see. Each shard pulsed, glowing brighter when approached. The last dragon who tried this had ignited them all and been trapped in fire for hours. Zyther froze, his heart hammering. Sweat mixed with dust on his scales. He could fail here again. Think, Adrian said. Feel the pulse. Match it, don't fight it. Zyther focused. He noticed patterns in the pulses, tiny differences in rhythm. He adjusted his wings, breathing in time with the crystals. Slowly, carefully, he weaved through them. One wrong move and he would be trapped. But he moved with thought, not instinct. Every beat counted. Every wing tilt mattered. He felt exhilaration, fear, and pride all at once. The room ended. Zyther exhaled, wings drooping with relief. Adrian nodded. Good. You learn faster than any dragon I've observed. Your mind guides your body. That is power. But deeper in the vault, challenges grew sharper. A corridor tilted suddenly, sending Zyther sliding toward jagged spikes. Ancient guardians, carved from stone but powered by lost magic, moved silently, blocking paths. Zyther's mind raced. He remembered Adrian's teachings: predict the patterns, anticipate movements. He flung himself sideways, dodging collapsing stone, and used the momentum of a falling pillar to swing past a guardian. Each heartbeat was a gamble. Each calculation mattered. Finally, they reached the vault's heart, a massive chamber dominated by a glowing obelisk. Energy radiated from it in waves, distorting the air, crackling around Zyther's wings. Any dragon approaching carelessly would be burned instantly. Many had tried to destroy it, thinking raw fire would suffice. Adrian approached cautiously. This is not something to fight, he said. Observe. Feel. Work with it, not against it. Zyther stared at the obelisk, panic rising. His tail lashed the floor. He had never felt power like this. But he took a deep breath and thought back to the maze, to every trial Adrian had guided him through. He adjusted his wings, angled his flames and pushed, not against the obelisk but alongside it. The pulses of energy matched his breath, his wing beats. Slowly, deliberately he synchronized with the rhythm. The chamber trembled. Light flashed. Shadows twisted. For a heartbeat he thought he had failed. Then the obelisk's energy calmed, the pulses steadying in harmony with Zyther's movements. A hidden passage opened. Dust swirled, revealing carvings and tablets lost for centuries. Dragon knowledge forgotten by generations. Zyther blinked. He had done what dragons older and stronger than him could not. Fear, failure, and ridicule had taught him nothing, but human guidance, patience, and courage had unlocked something inside him he never knew existed. He felt a new weight in his chest, not shame but responsibility. Adrian stepped forward. You see now, strength is not always muscle and flame. Sometimes it is thought, courage, and precision. You have what no dragon could teach itself. Zyther looked at the artifacts, at the energy pulsing through the chamber. Pride and amazement battled with exhaustion and lingering fear. He understood for the first time that failure did not define him. Mistakes were lessons. Guidance could open doors no dragon could open alone. And humans, small and seemingly fragile, could be the key to unlocking hidden potential in ways dragons could not imagine. But the vault was not finished testing him. From deep within the shadows, a low rumble echoed. A presence stirred, ancient, intelligent, aware. The light from the obelisk flickered over massive shapes just beyond Zyther's vision. He felt a shiver run down his spine. This was bigger than any maze or crystal trap. Something waited, something older than dragons themselves. Adrian's hand touched his shoulder again. Prepare yourself. This is only the beginning. The next trial will demand everything you have learned, and more. Zyther swallowed hard, wings trembling, mind racing. He was no longer the dragon who failed every test. But the vault still held dangers he could not yet see. And beyond its walls, challenges waited that might require more than courage and thought. They might require sacrifice. The shadows moved. The obelisk pulsed. The ancient vault had awakened, and Zyther's greatest trial was still ahead. The shadows shifted and the rumble grew louder. Zyther's heart pounded as the obelisk's glow reflected in massive shapes moving just beyond the chamber walls. He had survived storms, mazes, and the vault of Seraphis, but now something new emerged. Something that smelled of ancient power and intelligence, something that made his claws tighten on the stone floor. Adrian's calm voice cut through the tension. They are the Council's enforcers. Elite dragons. They've come to stop you. They see your victories as a threat. Zyther's wings twitched. I can't fight them, he whispered. The thought was terrifying. These dragons were taller, stronger, older. Their fire could melt stone, their claws could shred anything. He had survived traps and puzzles, but against warriors trained for war, how could he possibly win? Adrian knelt beside him. You are not alone. You've learned something no dragon else has. Use your mind. Anticipate. Redirect. Don't fight their power, outthink it. Fear and disbelief surged in Zyther's chest. His wings quivered, tail lashing the floor. Could thought alone defeat raw strength? Could a small, failing dragon truly stand against the elite? He had never faced odds this impossible. But Adrian's gaze, steady and unwavering, gave him clarity. Courage was not the absence of fear, it was action in spite of it. Outside, the canyon rumbled as dragons landed on jagged cliffs, their scales glinting under the twin suns. The air cracked with their fire, the wind carrying roars that made the stones tremble. Zyther's stomach twisted. This was real. Death could come in a single breath. Yet, beneath the fear, a spark of determination ignited. He would not fail. Not now. Not with Adrian by his side. The first attack came fast. A towering enforcer leapt from the cliff, breathing fire in wide arcs. Zyther's wings flapped desperately, dodging the flames by inches. He remembered Adrian's lessons. Observe the pattern, anticipate the strike, do not panic. He angled his body, letting the wind currents carry him around the fire blast instead of fighting against it. Another dragon attacked from above, claws slashing, wings beating a windstorm that threatened to knock him off the ledge. Zyther dove, rolled, twisted, every move calculated. He began to notice something the enforcers had not considered, their arrogance. They assumed his panic, their instincts assuming his movements would be reactive. But Zyther moved deliberately, predicting their attacks before they began. Adrian's voice guided him through the chaos. Lead them to the lava fissures. Force them to make mistakes. Their strength can be used against them. Zyther's mind raced. He saw the fissures glowing below, deadly but manipulable. Using sudden bursts of his own fire and controlled arcs, he forced the dragons to leap where the lava cracked the ground. One massive enforcer slipped, barely catching a ledge. Another collided with a rock, staggered, wings singed. Each misstep came from Zyther's strategy, not his strength. Adrenaline surged. He felt alive in a way he never had before. The fear was still there, gnawing, but now it was matched by clarity. He realized he could win, not by being the strongest dragon but by thinking like a human, by using intelligence as a weapon. The battle escalated. Flames licked the canyon walls, debris flew and the wind roared. One enforcer, larger and faster than the rest, pinned Zyther near the edge. His claws dug into stone, muscles burning. The dragon's breath scorched the air, close enough to singe him. For a heartbeat, panic flared. He could not outfight this. He had no physical advantage. Then Adrian's words echoed, "Use what you have. Your mind. Predict. Redirect." Zyther's gaze swept the battlefield. He saw how the wind moved, how the lava fissures shifted, how the enforcer's weight could tip the ground. He made a split-second decision. He flapped, angled his wings to create a gust, and forced the massive dragon toward the fissure's edge. The enforcer overbalanced, claws sliding, and tumbled partially into molten rock, restrained but alive. Zyther didn't strike. It was unnecessary. Intelligence, precision, and courage had won. The remaining dragons hesitated, confused and wary. They had never seen a dragon fight this way, so calm, so deliberate, so intelligent. Zyther's fire was controlled, his movements measured. He was a strategist in midair, a mind outmatching muscle, guided by a human's insight. Adrian's hand rested lightly on Zyther's shoulder when the last dragon hesitated. "Finish it," he said simply. Zyther's wings lifted. He didn't attack. Instead, he used the lava fissures, gusts of wind, and careful maneuvers to corral the enforcers, blocking them without injury. One by one they relented, realizing brute strength alone could not prevail. The canyon fell silent except for the crackle of embers and the hum of the obelisk deep within the vault. Zyther hovered, chest heaving. Fear, exhaustion, pride, and disbelief mingled within him. He had faced the elite council dragons, and survived. Not through brute force, not through instinct, but through courage, intelligence, and guidance. Humanity had taught him the greatest weapon he could wield, thought. Adrian's voice was calm but full of approval. "You have done what few dragons could. You have used your mind, your courage, and your precision. That is strength." Zyther's tail lashed the air. He looked down at the canyon below. Dragons that once mocked him now watched him with a mixture of awe and disbelief. He had transformed from the weakest dragon into something unprecedented. But even as relief filled him, a flicker of unease stirred. Among the shadows, deeper within the vault and beyond the canyon, something had shifted. The ancient forces had witnessed the fight. They were watching. Waiting. Adrian's hand tightened briefly on his shoulder. "This is not over. The greatest challenge is still ahead." Zyther swallowed hard. Exhausted, trembling but alive, he realized the truth. Survival was only the beginning. Knowledge, courage, and human guidance had won him the battle. But the war, the true test of mind and spirit, had yet to come. And somewhere in the shadowed depths of Calith Prime, a greater danger stirred, one that would demand every ounce of what he had learned, and more. The wind had calmed, but the canyon still hummed with tension. Zyther hovered above the fissures, wings slick with sweat and dust, heart hammering. The elite council dragons had retreated, for now, but the shadows inside the vault of Seraphis still moved, shifting with the pulsing light of the ancient obelisk. Something was watching, something older than dragons themselves, older than memory. Zyther knew the real test had not yet begun. Adrian stood beside him on the narrow ledge, calm as ever. His human frame was small and fragile compared to the dragons around them, yet his presence carried authority, patience, and unshakable confidence. "This is the last trial," Adrian said. "Everything you've learned, the focus, the planning, the courage, you will need it now. Trust yourself. Trust me." Zyther's claws dug into the stone. Fear clawed at his chest, but it was tempered by a strange, steady fire, determination. He thought back to the storm maze, to the crystal chamber, to the battle with the council enforcers. He had survived, yes, but this felt different. This was not a challenge of strength or even strategy alone. This was the moment that would define what he could truly do. From the shadows the air shifted. A deep, resonant hum rose from the obelisk, vibrating through the stone and into Zyther's bones. The ancient energy pulsed faster, almost as if it were alive. Shapes began to emerge, giant, skeletal constructs, remnants of the dragon's ancestors, bound to protect the vault. Their eyes glowed with intelligence, scanning, assessing. Every instinct screamed danger. Most dragons would have fled. But Zyther did not. "Observe them," Adrian instructed. "See their patterns, their pauses. Every creature, even this, has a rhythm. Follow it, don't fight it." Zyther's mind raced. He studied the constructs, noting subtle shifts in their movements, tiny delays after each step, the way energy rippled across the floor when they advanced. He realized they were not mindless. They were guardians that required logic, patience, and timing to bypass. His heart pounded in tandem with the obelisk's pulse. The first construct moved toward him, massive legs shaking the stone. Zyther flapped, dodging instinctively at first, but Adrian's voice reminded him to pause, to think. He hovered, wings trembling, and analyzed the rhythm. Then, in a calculated burst, he shifted slightly, letting the construct's weight carry it past him without collision. One down. Another advanced, faster this time. Zyther's tail lashed the air in frustration and fear. He could fail. One mistake would trap him, or worse. But he remembered Adrian's words, "Your mind is your power." He angled his wings to redirect a current of air between himself and the construct, using it like a lever. The guardian stumbled, adjusting its steps to compensate, just enough to allow Zyther to slip by. Step by step he advanced, heart racing, mind sharpened to razor focus. He had never felt so alive. The fear was still there, gnawing, but so was exhilaration. Every movement, every decision, every breath mattered. This was not brute strength, it was courage, intelligence, precision. Human-guided, yes, but ultimately his own. Finally, they reached the chamber at the obelisk's core. The energy pulsed violently, reacting to Zyther's presence. Normally, dragons would have attacked, tried to dominate the power with fire or force. Zyther, however, did something no dragon would have thought to do. He slowed, synced his breath to the pulse of the obelisk, his wings beating in subtle rhythm with the energy. He felt it responding, not violently but in harmony. The guardians paused, almost curious, and the obelisk's hum steadied. Adrian's voice was calm but proud. "You see? Courage is not just action. Strength is not just fire. This is the power you've always had, unlocked by patience and thought." Zyther looked around. The vault shimmered, carvings of the ancients glowing faintly, revealing knowledge lost for centuries. Symbols and diagrams of dragon history, technology, and philosophy appeared, illuminated by the obelisk's energy. He felt awe, humility, and pride. He had done what dragons older and stronger had failed to do. He had succeeded not by imitating them, not by brute force, but by embracing thought, strategy, and courage. Outside the vault, the council dragons approached. They were silent, watching. No longer mocking. No longer arrogant. They had witnessed something unprecedented. A small dragon, guided by a human, using mind and courage to triumph over threats they could not overcome. Respect shone in their eyes. Zyther realized that he had changed their perception, not by fire but by intellect, precision, and bravery. Adrian placed a hand on his scaled shoulder. "Your failures were never your end. They were lessons waiting for the right guidance. You've done more than survive. You've led." Zyther's chest swelled with emotion. Pride, relief, gratitude. He had always believed himself weak. Now he understood that strength was not measured by instinct or raw power, but by courage, thought, and heart. And humans, small, fragile, and underestimated, could show dragons a path no one else had seen. The council dragons lowered their heads in acknowledgement. Zyther's wings beat slowly, confidently now, no longer trembling. The vault hummed around him, alive with ancient energy, but it no longer intimidated him. He had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. Adrian smiled. "The world is bigger than we imagine. Strength is more than fire. Courage can come in many forms. Never forget that." Zyther looked at the human, his mentor, his guide, and finally understood. This was more than a lesson. It was a new beginning, for him, for dragons, and for the future of Calith Prime. Humanity's courage and ingenuity had not only saved him, it had changed everything. And as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the plateau, Zyther spread his wings. He was no longer the dragon who failed every test. He was something greater, a mind sharpened by fear, courage strengthened by guidance, and a spirit forever changed by a human who had dared to see what others could not. The vault's light pulsed softly, almost approvingly. Somewhere in the shadows the ancient guardians receded. The danger had passed. The lessons remained. And the world, once limited by doubt and ridicule, was now open to endless possibility. Xyther lifted into the sky. Every beat of his wings was precise, controlled, confident. He was ready. Not just for the next challenge but for everything that lay beyond the cliffs, storms, and shadows of Calith Prime. For the first time in his life he knew what it meant to be truly strong, and he had humans to thank for showing him the way.